Welcome to the Chase Down Podcast, part of the Cavs media family. I'm your host, Justin Rowan. The Chase Down is presented by Fubo, the official streaming partner of the Cavs. Watch over 350 channels of live sports and TV, including FanDuel Sports Network, without cable. There's no cost and no commitment. Try for free at FuboTV.com/Cavs. The Cleveland Cavaliers are heading into the All-Star break as one of the hottest teams in the NBA. They win James Harden's home debut in a blowout fashion over the Wizards, but Sam Merrill and Jarrett Allen didn't play along. They stole the spotlight from him. And joining me today is the man who always steals the spotlight, Carter Rodriguez. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. It's the All-Star break. I feel like I needed a little bit of a little bit of time to refresh and rest. I feel like it coming right on the back of the longest West Coast trip of the year is kind of a nice little treat to both the Cavs staff and to us. After a bunch of late nights staying up, podcasting at midnight. Just a little week off to take care of the family, spend time with friends, all that stuff like that. Not inconvenient that it happens all over Valentine's weekend as well. So, I feel good, and it doesn't hurt to be going into a long break on a 5-game winning streak. It's so much more encouraging, and like it feels like a reward as opposed to oh man, if I got to wait a whole week and then they're still struggling on the back end, like we don't have to deal with that.
Yeah, and I feel like we've had that a couple times, right? Wasn't it last year? Was it a loss to Atlanta right going into the All-Star break? It was either Atlanta or Chicago. I feel like we're always playing them as the last game, but it's a disappointing one. And then we came out of the All-Star break, and I think we won, 15 straight games after the break. I'm happy that the All-Star weekend has moved up. It's great. I remember how awkward it was when they would have the All-Star weekend and the trade deadline hadn't even passed yet, right? Like there's so many kind of tweaks to the schedule. It is a little weird to have Valentine's Day on All-Star weekend. This is probably going to be like the first time I haven't watched an All-Star Saturday in a while. But as you mentioned, it's really, really nice to see the Cavs go into this break riding a hot streak, right? Like, I know everybody is talking about the Cavs stats since December 29th. Like that seems to be the arbitrary point. But this here podcaster already picked a different arbitrary point, and that was December 22nd, because that was our feel-good win over the Hornets. And Carter, since that date, the Cavs have the best winning percentage in the NBA. They are winning at a 73% clip. They are 19-7 over that stretch in terms of net rating. They're fifth in the NBA. They have been cooking for a while, and we're 55 games in, so a 26 game sample, you're pretty much talking about half of the season that we've had to this point. The Cavs have been playing like the best team in the NBA over that stretch, and obviously they have a new lease on life with James Harden in the mix. You can tell that the energy is completely different with Harden in the building. Jarrett Allen is absolutely cooking. Shooters are getting open shots, and it just has been a lot of fun kind of seeing him get ingratiated with the roster here.
Yeah, but we're not starting anywhere other than Sam Merrill, brother.
Yes.
that man went bananas.
That man stole the spotlight.
That man went ballistic. That. It was it was an unbelievable performance. A real like celebration of the season Sam's been. I think for the season, I continue to kind of pound the drum that he's been the best role player on the team. He guards unbelievably well, and he got to obviously the 9 of 10 from 3 is what flashes, but like a great layup on a kind of a Corver cut off of I want to say it was a split cut, and then obviously also got the and one going to the hoop. You kind of just saw every part of the game working for Sam, and it's just so exciting because he's just an easy guy to root for at the end of the day.
He is a really easy guy to root for, and it's one of those it was controversial, right, in the summer when the Cavs signed Sam Merrill, and hey, could you have retained Ty Jerome, right? People were comparing contracts and all that sort of thing, but Sam's been fantastic. Like he really has taken a step forward for this team. He's rounded out his game in so many different ways, and the shooting has just been exceptional, right? Like that was kind of one of the questions when we looked at last year was, hey, he does kind of have some of these cold ruts, like even comparing him to like an AJ Green in Milwaukee. you're kind of like, these are two guys with the same physical profile, but the defensively they are about the same from an impact standpoint, but Green's more of a consistent shooter. Well, that's not the case anymore. Oh, Sammy Merrill is out here just lighting the net on fire, and he's done it while also expanding his game, right? Like, I think he has taken a step forward defensively. I think he's taken a step forward as a playmaker. I feel like his cuts are smarter and more on time, and he just absolutely deserves it. And he joked after the game that the Cavs social team kind of fired him up a little bit, that they posted one of the keys to the game was to get Sam going again. And he's like, I only had one bad shooting game on the road trip. I've been playing pretty well. So I think the key here, Carter, is we need to get Sam some sound bites. We need to get some clips out of this podcast to motivate him. We need to be there for Sam when no one else will.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I've never believed in Sam Merrill. You listening, Sam? You listening?
I'm so glad you did that, because I was literally about to say I would like you to criticize Sam and say how you don't believe in him. So I
knew what you wanted.
Context. You jumped in front of that train before I
gave it to you because I love you. No,
I appreciate that.
No, Sam is amazing. You know, I wondered during those streakier stretches last year of like, hey, is there enough of the other stuff? Can he hang on defense well enough? Can he get is the in-between stuff strong enough to make him someone you're okay playing when the three-pointer isn't going? And I feel like he really just gave me quite the treat in doing both. You know, Not only is the three-point percentage 10 points higher than his 37% on very difficult shot diet last year, he's also doing all the in-between stuff. It's just really, really exciting. Yeah, I'm just really proud of the guy. Like I just didn't expect. I expected after he gets the contract in the offseason, I was like, all right, it's a good outcome for the Cavs if he performs up to that. Right. I didn't really have it in my mental math, because normally after you're getting a value deal with a guy and then you pay him, it's like, okay, now we're right sized. I didn't expect him to be outperforming the new deal he signed already in his age, how old is he now? His age 29 season. But it just goes to show you how shooters can really like the way they age, their aging curve is just different than a lot of players.
Yeah, and I think also with the Cavs winning at a 64 win clip last year, we weren't really talking about any negative nuances within there, right? Like Sam was battling that wrist, soreness throughout last season, and we'll talk about context and every little ailment and thing that's going on when things aren't going well. But when you're getting a win, and hey, Sam was just 2 of 7 tonight instead of kind of the usual 40% we expect. Like that's going to get brushed aside. We're not going to talk about it in a post-game podcast, but clearly that had some impact, right? And he's dealt with that wrist at times this season as well, missing some time. But the nice thing is that the Cavs do seem to be taking a very patient approach with guys, right? Like they are giving them a lot of time to come back from these injuries, to make sure that they're right. And I think when you're seeing guys return to play, they're returning to play at a high level. And Sam is certainly one of those guys. And another one that might be around the corner, Kenny Atkinson hinting post-game that he expects Evan Mobley to be back after the All-Star break. This is completely uninformed, but I wouldn't have been surprised if he could have probably played against Washington, maybe even the Denver one. But with this All-Star break, being able to give another week of rest, I think that's a huge, huge benefit for Evan Mobley. And we're probably going to be getting a very motivated Evan Mobley too, because actually I'm going to go both ways on this, because there has been so many players that have dropped out of the All-Star game. Not only does Evan Mobley deserve to be a replacement, I know it hasn't been as good as last year. He is still that good defensively. Know who deserves it without a shadow of a doubt? James Harden. Look at his stats versus De'Aaron Fox. Look at him versus some of these other replacements. James Harden's had a great season, and now that he's on the Cavs, I feel no shame in standing for him on this here podcast.
Can you've opened up a lot of great doors, but I had one last Sam Merrill thing I wanted to hit on.
Go for it. Yeah, absolutely.
Is he having the best shooting season from a Cavalier that you've ever seen?
I think so. Like to me, this is better than like Kyle Korver.
Yeah, I saw someone like be like, oh, look look at who that actually is. And it was like a shot of Kyle Korver. I'm like, and my immediate instinct was Sam has been much better than Kyle Korver ever was as a Cavalier, which is pretty crazy because Kyle Korver was a very good Cavalier.
I mean, especially when you factor in like the volume, the difficulty, like Corver was getting some open shots. Not that he only took open shots, like he clearly would take some really difficult movement shots and all that, but like, man, Sam, especially last night, that was heat check central. Like he was throwing up some ludicrous stuff, and I felt like every single one of them was going to go in. Particularly like when he really, really started going, I was like, well, at this point, he's just not going to miss. So when he missed the 10th one, it was a little bit of a heartbreaker. Great stat from our friends over at Cavs Notes. He is the first player in Cavs history to have multiple games with 9 or more threes made. That's just bonkers. Like that.
Dude, he's shooting 47% from 3 on 10.6 attempts per 36.
Oh my goodness.
Like that's ridiculous. And it's not just a low volume thing or a low minute volume thing. Like he's taking 7.5 threes per game in his 25 minutes. So in the year where his minutes have gone up about 6 minutes higher than his previous career high, he's still putting up 7.5 attempts and hitting 47% of them. Like I honestly think like this is better than anything I ever saw J.R. Smith do, better than anything I ever saw, like, you know, other great shooters from yesteryear, Mo Williams, Boobie Gibson, any of these other sharpshooters. Like this is the best shooting season I've ever seen from a Cleveland Cavalier. And like the fact that it didn't dawn on me until, you know, game like 50 is pretty hilarious.
Well, that was a pretty loud game. So I think it's probably going to live in the hearts and minds and, you know, the imaginations and fears of the opponents, of fans. I was going to be funny. I wanted to be, you know, smart ass me and say Jalen Tyson when you're like, has anyone shot like this? Because Tyson is actually shooting 47.5% on 4.5 attempts, but the volume is obviously kind of the clear differentiator
and the
there.
Difficulty of the volume. I mean, Sam is like flying off 3 pin downs. His conditioning is clearly in just unbelievable shape because even at the end of games, it feels like the same amount of movement. It just really feels effortless. Like I never feel like I see Sam really laboring out there, despite how many miles he's putting on that court.
Yeah, it's you know, LeBron used to tie the shoes anytime he was tired or hurt, and he'd be 100%. Sam, it just seems like he needs like a quick hands on the hips for a second, and all of a sudden the energy is right back. He is an Energizer Bunny for the Cavs.
I have another from one Cavalier. I love to another. I have another question for you.
Okay,
is Jared Allen the best pick and roll partner James Harden's ever had? Fellow contestants would be Clint Capella in Houston, Dwight Howard in Houston, post prime Dwight, but still an All NBA level.
Awesome there. Didn't he make an All NBA team that first year?
I want to say he did. And Ivica Zubac in LA are the ones that really jump out to me. I think it's Dwight, but the fact that I'm asking the question is really saying something about what a perfect fit those two have been together. Jared Allen has missed 7 shots since he started playing with James Harden.
Yeah, like
he's 11 of 12, 10 of 16, and 8 of 8 in his 3 games.
Yeah, so Dwight in that season, he was second team All NBA, finished 8th in Defensive Player of the Year, made All-Star. He scored 18 points per game and 12 rebounds. To your point, Jared, over these last 5 games, now, of course, only 3 of them have come with James Harden, but 24 points per game, 12 rebounds, 75% field goal percentage. I want to do some rounding, and only 29 minutes per game. Like, I do think from like kind of a talent standpoint, I do think Jared Allen is a better partner than Clint Capella. I just think that the hands, the finishing, like Clint would get those lobs, those dunks, and, you know, those types of, you know, attempts around the basket. But even just the floaters that Allen got in that first game against Sacramento, the touch, the ability to go to the left hand, the footwork, I think Jared is a much more talented scorer and talented finisher than he gets credit for. So I think it's a great question to ask. I'm going to give respect to Dwight Howard just because,
It's probably the right answer.
he is, despite what the voters did, he is a top 75 player all time, and he is still the author of my lowest point as a fan. So I will give a little hat tip to him. But Jared has been absolutely fantastic. 8 for 8 against Washington. I was a little heartbroken because he finished with 21 points. I wanted him to get another game closer to
I
Wilt.
did too. I was really rooting for him to get to 25.
If I had Kenny Atkinson's phone number, I would have been calling him on the bench being like, you're probably not aware of this stat, but we talked about it on the podcast. Let's get Jared 4 more touches. And honestly, I think one of the
Kenny mentioned that the guys have been calling J.A. Wilt in the locker room.
Hey,
maybe he does know about it.
I saw some photo comparisons on Twitter. There's some similarities there. But honestly, I think Sam getting as hot as he did almost took away from it, because you're just going to keep feeding the guy that's hitting absolutely everything from deep, and you almost forget about Jared going a perfect 8-8 from the field and just cooking the Wizards, which he should, right? Washington wasn't playing any centers. This was an undersized
Were they playing
lineup.
Any power forwards?
Arguable.
I think that's the smallest team I've ever seen play an NBA game.
One of them for sure, and probably why it was a little frustrating to see them get so many offensive rebounds, particularly against the Cavs' second unit. They got a lot of those opportunities, which it's always weird when you play a team that's super undersized, because they're lacking in size, but you're just not boxing out the same when it's a bunch of quick wings running around, right? And some of it was also just really bad misses. But probably, if we're being honest, there were times where the focus kind of came and went for the Cavs.
That was not a real Wizards team.
No, they got off to a real hot start. It was, as we mentioned, a trap game situation. They kind of let them back into it, then they cranked back up the focus. Like this was very much a playing with your food. So I'm not going to read into that, but it was really fun. And the fact that Sam and Jarrett were as outstanding as they were took away from James Harden having his home debut to some extent, which there was obviously a lot of buzz around that. And I think, you can recall when the Cavs have made big shakeups midseason, right? Like integrating Antoine Jameson as an example, changing over, the half the rotation, right? Like there's been these big midseason shakeups, and often it's very bumpy. And I do think having a soft landing in terms of the schedule, which 2 out of these three games have been, Denver hasn't been playing well. I still do think that Denver game was their best win of the season, despite Denver not playing great as of late. But it was a relatively soft landing. I think it helped smooth the transition to some extent. But I also think James Harden deserves a lot of credit, because he is just playing smart basketball out there. He's forcing nothing. And this was just a game where he's showcasing the playmaking. He made that brilliant behind the back pass to Jalen Tyson, which is
a pass I would never even consider.
That's the best non-LeBron pass a Cavalier has thrown, in my opinion. That's as good as it gets.
We're really throwing out the superlatives on this one. We're feeling ourselves.
It's fun, eh? The Cavs are playing fun again, man.
I honestly think I agree, because and I always say this with Jokic. I used to say it with LeBron, and I'm so predisposed to these kind of genius level plays, because I can't imagine having the physical traits of any of these guys, obviously, but a lot of times as a fan, you sit and watch the game, especially when you've got the bird's eye view, and you think that you're smarter. It's the viewer's fallacy is you're watching from zoomed out, so you can see something developing that maybe a guy who's getting pressured on ball might not see. So your brain kind of can trick yourself into thinking you're smarter than you are. So when you see a player make a pass that you did not consider to be possible and then execute it and hit Jalen Tyson in stride for a dunk, those are the plays that really stick with me as a fan, because I'm like, Oh my God. I didn't know you could do
how
that.
accurate it was, like hitting him directly in stride, hitting him directly in the hands, like that's a big part of it for me, right? Like that's the style points on that pass. Like it's absurd that he tried it, and he's really, like, you heard it in the post game comments, but like you can tell he's impressed by the talent that the Cavs have on this roster, and I think it goes to show, right? Like bringing in James Harden shows that the Cavs understood what this team needed, right? Like Darius was bringing it last year, right? Like there was a very, very high level of playmaking. It was the second best offense in NBA history. It was 64 wins. They didn't say, oh, well, this point guard thing, like, backcourt with defensive questions and all that, like, that's not the way that this team needs to go. It's, hey, we're going to bring in someone that's going to be available more frequently, that is currently healthy, that's playing at an all-star caliber. Obviously, there's different wrinkles and nuances, and Harden's a first ballot Hall of Famer and all-time passer and all those sorts of things, but it's not changing up the style in a dramatic way, right? It's enhancing in some ways, but they're really not reshaping how they operate. And I think that's what's helped make it such a smooth transition to some extent. But a lot of the credit has to go to the player himself, right?
Yeah.
Like he's not forcing the issue. I think it would have been really easy to try to put on a show for the crowd. A raucous crowd in comparison to what they have at the Clippers, no offense. But put on a show for the crowd and force the issue sometimes. Instead, he recognized that the show is the product that is out there. It is everybody cooking. I'm going to feed Sam. I'm going to feed Jared. I'm going to feed Jalen, right? Like it was just great team basketball. And
I think it's important to make a distinction though, because sometimes a player comes and you can tell that their plan is to not force things. Very honorable thing to do. But then they play like a wuss.
Yeah.
And then they don't do anything. It's like the surfing scene in Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Like where you're not doing anything. You got to do something.
Yeah.
And I think James has done a nice job in these 3 games. And even in this game against the Wizards, which like it was such a weird game. I don't want to break it down too much. But like
it's why we're basically not doing a game recap.
Yeah,
like,
in the more competitive games, I would say.
Let us not lie to our listeners and break this down like it's game 7.
In the more competitive games, I would say that he still was driving and getting downhill. There were a few times where, especially in the Denver game, where I saw him maybe deferring to try to find Jared on a lob, even when they were playing the lob. But then, very quickly pivoted and was like, okay, I'm going to have to hit 3 or 4 floaters in a row because I'm getting to the restricted area on some of these drives or on in some of these pick and rolls, and I am going to need to score. I do need to take over at certain points. Oh, they're giving me a driving lane. Oh, they're reaching in. Let me draw a foul. So like he is, I think, doing a nice job of assimilating, because even his takeover in the fourth quarter against Sacramento, it was like 2 trailer threes, and it wasn't like, and then 4 free throws. So 10 of his 15 fourth quarter points weren't like Harden ball, like they were just playing within the flow of the game. But I do think he is finding his spots to still make the defense react almost every play, and that is why it's working so well offensively.
Yeah, there's a consistent aggression with the way that James Harden plays, right? Like even when he's distributing, it's not in a passive way. I think that's a great shout. Like that was a really, really smart point to make, because I do think that's kind of one of the key differences, right? Like that was one of the bridges that we wanted from a player development standpoint to see with Darius, right? And I think last year was kind of the first time we saw, okay, well, what if Darius keeps his foot on the gas, right? Like what does an aggressive point guard next to Don open up for everybody else? And the answer was a historically good offense and a historically great regular season, right? But I think it goes back to what we talked about in the last podcast, where there's just that maturity with James, and there's just complete confidence, that veteran confidence to know what his game is, how he can attack any defender in the league, right? Like there's just there's so much maturity there, and you can tell like he gets excited about the success of everybody else. He jumped off the bench to help a teammate up, right? Like he's doing all the little things, and that's been the
And how
reputation for him.
about hitting the top gear when Keon and Jarrett forced the turnover and he threw the lob to Jarrett against Denver? Like that boy was moving.
Yeah, yeah, like he is going to slow things down, but I have actually been pretty impressed, or at least pleased, but pleasantly surprised that there's a sense of, hey, when it's transition, I'm going to play with a little bit more tempo and I'm going to look to headman the ball, right? It's not, all right, I'm bringing us to a half court possession, right? Like I think, has that jumped out to you at all? Have you felt kind of the same way there?
Yeah, I think he's generally looking to push, looking to go fast, Justin, because teams move fastest when everyone's in sync. Zoom Workplace keeps meetings, chats, docs, and more together, so your work flows like a perfect play. Keep work moving and zoom ahead with Zoom Workplace. I do think James has picked his spots. I do think he's gotten up to a better gear than I expected him to get to in some of these spots. And you almost forget, just because of the play style, just because of he's older. You kind of forget this was a very, very good athlete in his day. He was not like
That's true.
He wasn't like a lumbering slow player his whole career. Like he does have this stuff. It's just, I think it's more of a style thing. He prefers to play a little bit more of it's like the beats per minute of his game is just a little bit slower, but it's nice to see him get up to speed. And I think the team is going to need that in a playoff setting from time to time when advantages are harder to find.
Yeah, and I'm really curious to see kind of how the usage settles out, right? Like I think right now we've thrown a rock in the pond and we're waiting to see the water level, right? Like and where that's going to come to, because you look over these first three games, the Cavs have a 126.7 offensive rating. Like that's just bonkers. Plus 10 net rating. Harden's usage is at 21.8. For the season, it was 30.1. So quite a bit lower than it was with the Clippers. The interesting thing is Donovan Mitchell's usage has actually gone up 3% over these three games. Like he's at almost 35% usage. I would expect that to come down. Obviously, Harden is shouldering more of a load. I think he's going to take more on, but the other
Evan
component
is
of this,
also going to eat some of that usage, right?
I was going to say the other component of this is right now Jarrett's at 20.7 of those three games, and Evan Mobley's going to be reintroduced to the mix here. So I'm very, very curious to see what the usage looks like for those four, and in particular, what it kind of looks like when all four are on the court at the same time, right? Like, how do those touches get distributed? How aggressive is Harden? Does Don defer? Like, I think there's a lot of questions that we need answered over this home stretch of the season.
We absolutely do. I wanted to ask you something that has been just a little bit in the back of my mind in terms of like, I wouldn't even call this like a troubling trend as much as like I just want to ask about it because I've noticed it in miniature and I wonder if you think it's something worth considering or not. And it's Jalen Tyson, who through the month of January was just killing teams, was absolutely phenomenal. Started out February, absolutely phenomenal. 7 of 12 against Portland, 7 of 10 against the Clippers. Since the trade, it's just been a little quieter. He had 10 points against the Kings on 3 of 8 shooting, no assists. Then against the Nuggets, 16 points. He hit 4 threes, which helps. Goes 6 of 13 otherwise. Only 1 assist. And then against the Wizards, 2 of 6 with 1 assist. Again, weird game, all that stuff. It feels like my eyes are telling me that Jalen is actually still is the guy that's probably finding his way a little bit to learn how to play with James Harden. Have you noticed that a little bit, that he's kind of still like finding his sea legs in this like paradigm shifted roster?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was kind of inevitable, right? Like this stretch where he's been playing great with Darius out, he's been the second ball handler, right? Like he has taken on higher usage. And that's just not going to be the case with both James Harden and Donovan Mitchell in the lineup, right? And I think we're probably going to see that same thing happen again to Jared when Evan comes back, right? And I think this is just one of those really important things for people to keep in mind where, hey, the NBA teams are usually made up of a lot of guys that are capable of doing more than they'll do when everybody is available, but they sacrifice to go in the right direction, right? And do what's best for the overall team and try to find that balance for the overall team. And I think, you know, Jalen is going to have to take a little bit of a backseat to some extent. I don't equate that to, you know, stunting development or anything like that,
No,
though, because
I wasn't dancing around that, to be
no,
clear.
I didn't think that's where you're going. I just wanted to make that clarification because I think for people that aren't looking as closely as we do on a game-to-game basis, they'll look at stats and whether, you know, someone is producing or not. I don't think Jalen looks uncomfortable, but I agree. I think that there's a little bit of adjustment here. And my personal prescription to this would be I really do want to see when everyone is healthy. That first substitution pattern, I'd like to see Don come out. I'd like to see Jalen come out. I'd like to see Evan come out, right? And bring in some shooters for Harden to run that spread pick and roll with Jared. I think that's a great way to keep Jared involved. I think the chemistry between those two is just so natural, and like there's just an understanding of, you know, how to get each other going. That you know, I want to continue to ride that, and I think that that opens up opportunities for Jalen to come back in with Don, for him to be the second playmaker. You know, that probably gets into a question of, hey, is Dennis Schroeder playing in these minutes too, right? Like it be, you know, it was one thing when it was Don and Jalen as primary and secondary ball handlers. Even if he's coming in on the bench and Harden's not there, Dennis Schroeder is another element added to this, right? So I think there's a lot of questions, and I think this is probably a time where Kenny Atkinson should probably be given some grace from a rotation standpoint, because there's going to be some experimenting, there's going to be some fine tuning, and just because a lineup doesn't work the first time you use it doesn't mean you don't go back to it, right? Sometimes it's shot variance, sometimes you need to work through some awkwardness. So I do think that there is going to be some time that's necessary to figure out exactly what the right alchemy is here.
Yeah, I think Jalen, it's just easy to forget, like, this is the Cavs team. He's only played with one version of the Cavs, you know?
Yeah.
And like the entire, half the rotation just got changed, basically. And so I think giving him some time, I have seen some really encouraging stuff. I think he's enjoying screening for James Harden.
Yes.
You know, a couple really nice screens. Something that is becoming a little bit of a pet thing for him, if you look closely, is he'll screen for a guard, and you know, guard pick and rolls. Oftentimes, defenses want to switch that because you know it's like on like, which makes sense. But what he's been doing is he'll screen, get the switch, rescreen, but then immediately slip. And
Mm.
it's really neat to see because the defense has already gotten into their brains. All right, when he screens, we switch. And so they're kind of lulled into the sense, and then he's able to get into wide open space really, really well because the defense just gets a little discombobulated, and you're just making the defense change their coverage within 4 seconds. And like a lot of defenders don't want to do that. Certainly not in the regular season when you're not on scouting reports. So I'm seeing little bits and bobs of him getting more and more comfortable. And like also it's a 3-game sample, so it could be any number of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to at least give a little time to talk about that because it's one of the only like little bumps I've seen.
Yeah, and I think an important thing to point out there, you're absolutely right. Like I think this has become a really nice part of Jalen Tyson's game. I think it's important that we point out that at the start of the season, we're like, Jalen Tyson's screen setting sucks. Like you know, he's not setting effective screens right now, and that's probably something that, you know, he should be able to do with his bigger body. The fact that he's gone from, all right, now he's setting good screens, and now he understands those little nuances, right? Of when to time the slip, you know, rescreening and all those sorts of things, when I can pop out. like just understanding the spacing and how to create those passing angles to achieve whatever he's looking to pull off on those plays, that is meaningful in season improvement and in season growth, right? And that's something that it's not as obvious as someone that can't shoot and adds a jumper, or someone that's struggling with their handle and it gets tighter, but it just makes for, more effective usage. And I think it's particularly important on this Cavs roster where you do have basically every position screening for every position, right? Like there is a lot of guard to guard screens. There is a lot of kind of things to get the defense
Inverted
second guess.
screens, the more traditional, guard big screens, lot any which way.
Yeah, and I think anything you can do to make the defense less comfortable and more confused is really, really important, because what have we talked about? Getting this offense to translate to the playoffs, right? And I think having more guys that can screen effectively, that can run those types of actions to free up guys, it just makes it harder when a defense has maybe one or two guys that they feel really good about their ability to lock a team down and blow up actions that they're running. If they are allocated to certain guys, but you can go to the other three players on the floor to run the actions and get the defense into rotation, that opens up a lot of possibilities. And, along that same vein, like Danny Cunningham brought up a really good point on his most recent podcast, which was, using James Harden as a post-up guy, in the mid-post.
I noticed that too, and they did it a lot.
They really ran it a lot against Washington, and that's a wrinkle that you would never be able to run with a Darius Garland. And this is something that, with really just film sessions and a couple shoot arounds, they're like, all right, we're going to use James in this situation, right? Like a wrinkle for the point guard position that we've never really run. And I think it speaks to, one, the confidence that Kenny has in James, right? Like Kenny talked about, and just binging James Harden film from Houston, from Philly, from Brooklyn, everywhere, just to try to steal ideas basically. So I think Kenny deserves credit, but I think just the overall basketball IQ of this roster deserves a lot of credit to be able to naturally play off of that, right? And yeah, there were sloppy turnovers. I think some of that could have been focused. Some of that is, introducing these new wrinkles. But overall, I'm just really, really impressed with how smooth this transition has been.
Yeah, they've been really, really good, and there's still a lot to uncover. I still think Kenny's figuring out how to use Keon Ellis, where in the rotation, what lineups to play him in. You're still seeing him experiment with Dennis Schroeder, kind of bouncing around to different parts of the rotation. Like, this is not and also, frankly, with no Dean and no Evan, almost none of these lineups are going to be lineups we see.
Right.
So it's like a really interesting thing where it's like he's got to tool around and try a lot of different things, while also like having to acknowledge deep down that like a lot of this is going to get changed again, because we're getting, with Evan coming back, with Dean, I hope the ankle gets better and he's coming back. And then, we haven't even mentioned Max Strus, who is still working back. Like, we could really be looking at, 4 new rotation players, 4 new top guys in your top 9, plus, Evan and Dean getting reintegrated. Like, this is going to be a wildly different team than it was to start the year.
Speaking of Max coming back, assuming Max comes back and he looks like himself, I'm sure there's going to be, a ramp up period and all that. If things were looking a little awkward with Jalen Tyson and we're trying to get him more on ball reps, could you foresee moving him to the bench to try to facilitate that, or like just kind of valuing having that spot up shooter? Because personally, my take is I'd like to keep Tyson in that role. I especially we make the first substitution 3-4 minutes in. Like I've always felt like the starting conversation is overblown, but I'm just curious.
My initial take is that I think with and I felt this way with Darius too, presuming we were going to get him back and healthy, is I think it's okay to be a pure catch and shoot guy and not a movement, run through 4 screens guy when you have an elite point guard setting the table and an elite scorer next to him.
Yeah.
Like you shouldn't need to. You don't. You with that starting lineup. I think it's okay to have Jalen parked in the corner, parked on the wing, and just have his hands out ready for a catch, because you are going to get the defense in rotation, whether or not you run some off-ball action for that shooter or not. And Jalen is a top 5 shooter in the NBA right now. So I'd almost rather have the Sams and the Maxes available to me in bench settings when I only have one of my elite ball handlers on the floor, only one of my elite bigs on the floor, and I need to get a little more creative with how I'm looking at getting my buckets.
Man,
a lot of good options on this roster. It's almost like we felt like they were a title contender before the year started.
Yeah, and before all the injuries hit. Yeah. And, we weren't even factoring in Jalen Tyson to that equation. It's funny because what you said is agreeing with my point, but I just liked how you got there. You made me feel even stronger about it. And if you know me, sometimes I'll agree with the end point, but I hate how you got there, or I don't agree with how you got there. So I will still argue, even though we agree on the end point. And I've had to do that a fair bit, with this James Harden trade and people rewriting history and or making dishonest points. I'm fighting that urge because right now the vibes are too good. There's no point debating stuff that can't be proven, that can't be quantified, or if people are misrepresenting stuff that can be proven and can be quantified, there's no change in their mind. So I'm riding with the good vibes, and like you said before, with James Harden playing this style with like the genius level passing, with how fun the offense has been, it really does make this transition so much easier. And I'm really, really excited for what this kind of home stretch can be. And, we get a really easy one coming out of the break with Brooklyn. You get the Charlotte Hornets, who have been red hot. Like I was looking at that sample, right? That since December 22nd, the Hornets are right there. They've won just as many games. They're the only team better offensively than us over that stretch. So that might actually be a little bit of a test. And then we'll see who's available for OKC. I got my fingers crossed because I want that to be a real measuring test.
Yeah, well, you kind of get to have your cake and eat it too. You either get a great test or you get another chance to get closer to the Knicks and Celtics. The Cavs do have a very tough schedule after those first 2 games out of the break. But it will be the toughest part of their remaining year before things really ease up for the last 10, 12 games of the season. Like, this is where they're going to get tested, and I think this is where they're going to earn the 2 seed. Thank goodness. Thank you to the Pacers for beating the Knicks yesterday, by the way. That was a nice little present, or 2 days ago, whatever it was.
It was in double OT too. So I was sitting there, I was like, oh man, double overtime. Then it's a back-to-back playing Philly. We might be tied with the Knicks. We may have caught the Knicks going into the All-Star break, and then they just absolutely blow out
Top
Philly,
of the East is just in great form right now. I mean, Detroit's won 8 of their last 10, Boston 7 of the last 10, Knicks 8 of their last 10, and the Cavs obviously 9 of their last 10. And man, how nice it is to have be stringing together 5-game win streaks again.
Yeah, totally agree.
And 10 of their last 11, I want to say it is. Yeah, it's they're playing out of their minds, which is a lot of fun.
One thing I want to bring up, but before we wrap this thing up, because you talked about Jalen Tyson not needing to do as much in that starting unit. I do think saving some of that energy too does allow him to be a little more aggressive defensively, right? Which that lineup does need someone that is aggressive defensively at the small forward position. Lets him get some of those offensive rebounds. And, I want to give a shout out to Jalen Tyson because we've talked about how his defense has consistently improved, from where it started at the start of this season, from where it was last year. Like, the start of the season was an improvement from last year, and it still was shaky at times. Now he's a legitimately good defender, and if I can cite some B-Ball Index tracking data stats here.
Always love him.
Perimeter isolation defense, 93rd percentile now for the season. Ball screen navigation, 80th percentile. So
it makes some Jalen Tyson faces here in these stats.
Pretty good. And then off-ball chaser defense, he is in the 99th percentile. So like
That's my guy.
He's rounded into like a legitimately
a man
really
who
good
told
defense.
us at media day, I've never really played defense in college.
He's like, yeah, people have criticized my defense, and it's fair. Like, I didn't really do it. Like, honestly, he has won me over to a degree that I just didn't think was possible. Like, I really liked him coming into the year. I had hopes for him, but he is rounding into just a hell of a player, a
Great
hell of a draft
brother.
And like, it's once again, look at who we're celebrating right now on the Cavs. This last game against the Wizards, you got Jarrett Allen, which was a value trade, sneaking in as the third team. You got Jalen Tyson, a late first round pick that has taken a step forward through player development. You have Donovan Mitchell, a consolidation trade, big acquisition. You got guys like Sam Merrill that were late kind of G League find. You bring him back up, you develop him, you round out his game. Like, every single Naquan Tomlin, congratulations, Naquan Tomlin playing his first game on an actual NBA contract. A little bit of news that we didn't hit on, right? Like, you have every single route of player acquisition has hits on this Cavs roster, right? Like, you might have some teams that are good at the draft, some teams that kill in free agency or do well in trades, some that develop well from the G League. The fact that the Cavs have valuable contributors to their rotation from every single one of these streams of player acquisition, I think really goes to show how this organization is not leaving any stone unturned and has really, in a second apron environment that is supposed to make it impossible for you to get better, that if the bets that you made that got you into the second apron didn't work out, there is no option to pivot. Like, you saw Boston, okay, Porzingis's lungs don't work and Jason Tatum's hurt. Like, we have to get out of this. The Cavs successfully made a pivot within the second apron, and I think they're a better roster as a result of it.
Man,
hell yeah,
fun times. It was hard for a minute.
Yeah,
but it's nice to be back to a fun team that's pretty easy to root for, that has title contention in their eyes, and this is the home stretch now. This is the figure it out, and we talked about like the arc we wanted for the season of like find yourself, then start tooling around, then start killing teams, or I think a lot of that's now crunched into these last 30 or so games, but I think this team can do it. I think they're showing the signs you want to see. I don't want to get too over our skis. Like, you shouldn't have to work as hard as they did to beat a pretty beaten down Kings team. That Nuggets game, the Nuggets weren't having in great form. Like, I don't want to get too excited and confirmation biasy. Like, they still have big tests. Like, if they go out and play OKC and get run off the floor, then I think a lot of this high is going to crash. So I think it's important that we stay balanced, stay even. But again, luckily, this team had been finding itself before they made these trades. And that makes me feel better than a burst of energy after a cataclysmic trade.
Right. Like I said, 26 games now that we've been winning at a 60-win pace. Like, this team has been playing great basketball for a while now, and it just feels good. Like, you're right. You're correct in cautioning not to get over your skis, but at the same time, I think the start of the season was a reminder that absolutely nothing is promised to you. And I think while we can be measured in our analysis, that doesn't mean we have to temper the joy and excitement, because you never know when it's going to stop. You never know when you're going to have it as good as you have it today. So live in the present and have some fun. And while we're there, thank you so much for hanging out with us, guys. We appreciate everyone tuning in live on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe. Click that notification bell so you know when we're going live. If you're listening via podcast and you want to support us, leave us a rating, leave a review, subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe, and help cook those books. If you want to be part of Chase Down's exclusive Discord chat, send a screenshot of the view to chasedownpod@gmail.com. However you choose to support us, we really do appreciate it. Make sure you guys are staying safe out there. Until next time, go Cavs.